all right. We are live. Welcome in, everybody. We've got Psy Deathful, Valhalla Vidya, Dragon Knight, Dragonborn, Lucky Otter. Welcome in, everybody, to chat. If you haven't yet, make sure to drop a like. How are you all doing today? Before I even get started with the spiel, Psy, you donated $50. You maniac. You're supposed to wait for me to already be live before you do that so I can get a better reaction. Thank you so much for the $50. That is incredibly generous of you, as always. Speaking of funds and donation goals, you'll notice up top I have a new donation goal, the new channel art. As you know, that I had been raising funds to replace my computer chair because the leg on that broke and I'd been sitting on a dining room chair. Well, the chair arrived on Wednesday, and I don't have a full shot of it because I took the picture, but I don't want to show it because I need to vacuum. The carpet was looking pretty bad, but I do have a cat who is showing it the proper appreciation, so why don't I go ahead and show you. Here is Bean sitting atop of the new chair, giving it his stamp of approval. He's jumped up here multiple times. He quite likes it. I'm kind of hoping he comes in during stream just so he can say hello to chat as well. So, how is everybody doing today? Is baby, yes. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about, just in terms of the channel, like I said, the donation goal, I'm going to be doing more channel art. I'm going to be getting a bunch of new poses because right now it's just, you know, it's just me. It's I've got like, actually, hang on, let me pull. I do have art for the Bean character.
So, you know, if I wanted to play Bean, I could just pop over here and do this.
But for the most part, it's just me. It's just the one pose. And so I'm going to be paying Glooby to draw 10 new poses for me. As well, I'm going to be getting a new animated intro for video segments that I post up. And I was also hoping to get an animated interaction reminder. If you've watched DemonMama's videos, you'll know she's got the little thing where the imp comes up from the flames and presses all of the buttons before disappearing. And I was thinking of something like having the like and subscribe buttons in bubbles, and Bean can swim in from the corner and bap them. So that is my current dono goal. And Sai, you were, again, very generous. You just push that needle a lot closer to done. But my channel's actually doing pretty good lately. Here, let me pull this back up. This is a live count of my subscribers. I just broke 900. That means I am less than 100 subscribers away from getting the 1,000. And 1,000 is an important number because that is one of the criteria needed to get this channel monetized. YouTube requires me to have, I think it's at least 3 uploads in the last 90 days, which is not a problem for me. I'm doing daily uploads on this channel. It also requires me to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. Now, there is like a partially monetized status at 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours, which I'm a lot closer to. I think I'm like 500 watch hours away from getting that one, and that will allow me to like set up, I think, channel memberships and do like super chats and stuff like that. But getting the full Google AdSense where I can run ads on my videos and make money that way, that's gonna get pretty good. Lucky Otter says, did you upload the When Evil Works video? I don't know what that is. What you talking about there? But anyway, Here, actually, I'm gonna see. I just want to make sure when I pull up the analytics here that I'm not exposing anything important, because I did want to... Yeah, here. No, okay. Yeah, nothing looks spoilery here. Let me switch this back on over. So this is my analytics for the last 365 days, because it does require the watch time to be in the last year. If I did it lifetime, that gives me about 400 more watch hours. That's not a whole lot, but yeah. So for the last year, I'm at 2,507 watch hours. So I need about 1,500 more. Actually, here, let me go back to the 28-day thing, because I actually had my my Nepo Baby video do pretty well. That one I didn't expect to do huge numbers, but it like got almost 1,000 views. Oh, Lucky Otter, that was oh, why am I blanking on the name of it? It wasn't When Evil Works. It was When Evil Lurks. That one actually should be going up tomorrow. Actually, yeah, that's where it's scheduled to come out. But I might bump that just because, like, when I have, you know, breaking news to cover, I like to make sure to push that out, and then like any of the reviews that I've got might get pushed like a day or two. Yeah, I do, you know, obviously the VOD for that review is up, so you can, if you didn't see the review there, you can go back and see it that way. But the review itself should be coming out tomorrow in theory, but I might push it like a day or two just because of news segments and stuff that I'm going to be doing. You had a typo, dude. Well, the typo was enough that, like, it threw me off on what you were talking about. Okay. So, we've got some topics today. And sorry, I just got a Discord DM that distracted me for a second. But what am I talking about? Sorry. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to be reviewing Killers of the Flower Moon today with DemonMama. And actually, she's DMing me because she had some issues on her end with her stream, so that's what was distracting me. So yeah, she should be coming on with me in an hour, and we'll be talking about that. But I also watched Dix the Musical, and that's a fun one. I'm looking forward to talking about that. We've also got the latest episode of Star Trek Lower Decks to talk about, as well as I did not get last week's Loki review done. I forgot to review it on Monday, and then I just never ended up doing an offline segment of it. So this week we'll just talk about the last 2 episodes of Loki. Yeah, sorry. Just got a little distracted there. But since we've got about 50 minutes before I go on with DemonMama, why don't I get some Hollywood news stories lined up? So let's do... Valhalla says, obviously I'm staying for the review, but should I add Killers of the Flower Moon to my list of films to see? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I would say so. It's definitely going to be sweeping the awards circuit, just knowing the way that the awards industry works. So people are going to be talking about it. It's going to have a lot of Oscar buzz. So yeah, I would say so. But let me get started with this. Sorry, just a second. Okay. So, SAG-AFTRA and the AMPTP have been doing a dance for over 100 days now. And it's mostly been AMPTP has just refused to talk to them. And they had a brief moment of negotiations earlier this month, which the AMPTP just abruptly walked away from. But fortunately, starting this Tuesday, AMPTP and SAG-AFTRA are back at the table. Now, I have been, because today's a Friday, I don't know exactly the, the timeline on, I know they're negotiating today, but they have not pushed out anything like a statement yet on how negotiations went today. So there could be major changes that happen just during this stream that we'll find out about. But for now, let's get into the coverage. So this is SAG-AFTRA's official press statement from the latest news today. This was their announcement for Tuesday, saying that they would meet for bargaining on Tuesday, and then this is their most recent statement, which was yesterday, October 26th, and it says, "Dear members, today we passed a comprehensive counter across the table to the CEOs, and while talks for the day have ended, our committee just completed working internally tonight. We are scheduled to meet across the table again tomorrow. In solidarity and gratitude, your TV and theatrical negotiating committee." So they have just sent a new offer to SAG-AFTRA. To the AMPTP. What will happen with that? Kind of hard to say. However, there has been buzz about how the AMPTP is negotiating here. And this one says, studios to devote another week to resolve SAG strike or give up until January. Now, before I read this article, I want to point out that automatically this is a negotiating tactic. This is posturing. I don't actually believe it. But let's see it. Yeah, if that's the case, the fall TV season is lost and new movies won't come out until next summer, says Insider. Hollywood studios are giving one more week to negotiations with SAG-AFTRA before they are ready to pack it in for the rest of the year, the Wrap has learned. According to an individual with knowledge of their thinking, the studios believe that if they can't reach a deal in the next week with the Screen Actors Guild, which has been on strike since July 14th, then no new production will be able to start before 2024. If that is the case, the studios further believe, then the fall television season is lost and new movies won't be able to come out until next summer. In this scenario, early November would be the drop-dead date to salvage any ability to put television or movies into production. Once the calendar hits Thanksgiving, it is unlikely any project would begin production, pushing off everything to the new year, this individual said, and killing the studio's incentive to push for a deal. Okay, before we get into this further, there are some realities involved in this. Hollywood usually basically takes about a month off. Basically from Thanksgiving to Christmas, Hollywood is usually not in active production. But that's on a normal year where there aren't strikes and, lots of work stoppages. So while some of this could just be speculation on how Hollywood generally tends to operate, the thinking is, oh, well, if the strike goes all the way to Thanksgiving, then of course they're not going to get anything done because that's break time, except that break time is when, you haven't, when you've been doing regular work, and Hollywood hasn't been able to do regular work for most of the year. So I think people would probably not go on vacation as much. And also, this sounds like a scare tactic. To be like, oh, we got to get this deal in now. Otherwise, well, you might be off strike, but we won't give you any work for another 2 months. But don't believe it. Don't believe it for a second. Hollywood is desperate for their productions to resume. All that puts significant pressure on the talks going on this week. The CEOs from 4 of the major entertainment conglomerates, Disney's Bob Iger, Netflix's Ted Sarandos, Warner Brothers Discovery's David Zaslav, and NBC Universal's Donna Langley will meet anew on Thursday with SAG-AFTRA. Okay, so this was a couple days ago because it's now Friday. Thursday with SAG-AFTRA President Fran Drescher and Chief Negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland and their legal teams in an effort to reach a contract. Okay, some of this is just recapping what we know. The guild decided to skip further bargaining on Wednesday so they could discuss the offer. Okay, so they had presented a counteroffer on Tuesday, and AMPTP presented a counteroffer on Tuesday. SAG-AFTRA responded on Thursday with theirs. They're in negotiations today. That is currently where we're at. So until we have a further update there, I kind of wanted to cover this story from Deadline. And as I often say on this channel, Deadline, as well as Variety and The Hollywood Reporter, they're industry rags, so often they are a reliable source of information for, production details and Hollywood and stuff like that, but they are all owned by the same parent company, Penske Media, which owns Dick Clark Productions, which is a member of the AMPTP, who's negotiating with SAG-AFTRA right now. So, even if the journalists themselves are not, in the AMPTP's pocket, editorial control over what gets written about, what stories are being covered, and, how the titles are written, is very, very important to keep in mind that there is a financial incentive to have the AMPTP come out on top. So, here we have thousands of stars, including Sarah Paulson, Chelsea Handler, John Hamm, Daveed Diggs, Christian Slater, and Sandra Oh tell SAG-AFTRA leadership we would rather stay on strike than take a bad deal. Now this, on its face, sounds pretty good, but I'm going to get into the ways that it's being. This is a little bit of a trick here. A group of high-profile actors have signed a public letter declaring that they would rather stay on strike than accept a bad deal. Thousands of stars, including Sarah Paulson, Chelsea Handler, Christian Slater, Sandra Oh, Daveed Diggs, Pedro Pascal, and Cal Penn have signed the letter, which is addressed to the SAG-AFTRA negotiating committee. I'm going to read the full letter, so I'm not going to. I'll skip over that. We'll get to that at the end. Let's see. Other signatories include Carrie-Anne Moss, Christine Baranski, Jason Alexander, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Kristen Chenoweth, Leslie Odom Jr., Lizzie Kaplan, Richard Schiff, Simon Pegg, Timothy Oliphant, Zachary Quinto, Titus Welver, Simon Helberg, John Hamm, Rosanna Arquette, Pamela Adlin, Noah Weil, Maya Hawke, Margaret Cho, Lena Dunham, Kim Raver, Joshua Jackson, Helen Hunt, David Harewood, and Carrie Coon. That's a lot of names. The move comes after a separate group of actors, including George Clooney, Scarlett Johansson, Kerry Washington, Tyler Perry, Bradley Cooper, Meryl Streep. Yeah, all of these people made their own offer to help end the strike. This was referring to the plan that they had presented to SAG leadership, where they wanted to remove the $1 million cap on paying SAG dues, so that that could go toward helping out lower paid members of SAG, but the trades were reporting it as if it was like division within the union, where they're like, we're doing this so that we can end the strike, rather than what it actually was, which was a gesture of goodwill to be like, hey, we can help out. But what do you think is my issue with this? Okay, so we've got the full letter here, but I'm actually not going to read it here. I'm going to read it on the page itself. It says, a group of high-profile actors, thousands of stars. But look at this. Thousands of stars? I mean, all the names we read, You know, there's a couple of them I don't know here, but I recognize most of them. But how many, like, A-listers are there in Hollywood? Is it thousands? I mean, maybe, but did they all sign on? Let's go take a look at the actual letter so that we can find out what's actually going on here. An open letter from SAG-AFTRA members. To our SAG-AFTRA negotiating committee. Back in June, before we went on strike, a large group of members signed an open letter telling our leaders that we would rather go on strike than take a bad deal. Now, more than 100 days into our strike, that is still true. As hard as this is, we would rather stay on strike than take a bad deal. We have not come all this way to cave now. We have not gone without work, without pay, and walked picket lines for months just to give up on everything we've been fighting for. We cannot and will not accept a contract that fails to address the vital and existential problems that we all need fixed. In any union, there will always be a minority who are not willing to make temporary sacrifices for the greater good, but we, the majority who voted overwhelmingly to authorize this strike, are still standing in solidarity, ready to strike as long as it takes and to endure whatever we must in order to win a deal that is worthy of our collective sacrifice. We know that our union leaders are doing everything in their power to achieve that goal as they negotiate in good faith with the companies to arrive at a new contract that will protect us and our fellow performers now and for generations to come. Everything we have as a union, every minimum payment, health and pension benefit, residual, royalty, and workplace protection, it has all been won with the power of our members, the power of our solidarity, the power of standing together as one to demand what is right, what is fair, and what we deserve. You have our trust, our support, and our power behind you now. One day longer, one day stronger, for as long as it takes, in solidarity. And I don't know if you can see how small the scroll bar is here, but why don't we take a look at the member list? Some of these names are recognized. Adam Conover. You can keep going. Alice Eve, I recognize her. She was in a Star Trek movie. This keeps going. We're still in the A's. These are not all stars. These are actors. These are, like, just regular actors in Hollywood. Ashley Nicole Black, I recognize that name. I don't know if I've seen her in anything. Bills, I know some of these bills. Billy Eichner, yeah, I know him. Anyway, this is... Let's speed this up. This is not a list of stars. This is a list of actors. They're not the same thing. A star is usually like an A-lister, somebody who headlines. These are working people. Now, certainly, there are some, like, you know, well-known names in this list, but a lot of these people, you might have seen them in something, but you don't know who they are. They're just the working people. They're the people that need this strike win the most. So, for Deadline to say it's stars, and it's the top-tier talent standing up, what they're saying is... Oh yeah, no, all the rich people, all the people who are doing well in Hollywood, yeah, no, they're totally willing to keep going with the strike. But that's not what this list is. This list is your average working Joe in Hollywood who has to wait tables to supplement their income because they're not making enough as an actor. These are the people that the strike is about. We have just hit the end of it. So, when Deadline says stars and picks the most well-known names from it, the narrative that they're giving is... And actually, why don't I just take a look at the comments down here? Because I took a look at some of these comments. Here's the top one. Too bad. All these people named can afford it. Yeah, okay, so there's a bunch of comments here, but the top one right there, like, all these people named can afford it, that is the impression that the editor who picked this headline was going for. They were going, hey, look at all these out-of-touch rich guys who say, oh yeah, we can hold it out. We're good. So be aware of how the media spins this. Anyway, why don't I go one more time? Let's refresh. It's after 5. Nope, we don't have an update yet. If there is an update before this video goes out, I will probably record an offline segment, or if something breaks later in stream, I can append it to this. But remember what they're fighting for, and let's hope that they can get a good deal this week. And if not, this week, remember, the studio may say it's this week or never, but that's all bluster. They need them. All right. Let's do some other content here. Okay. So as I covered in a previous video, Marvel Studios was revamping the Daredevil Born Again TV show. It's a sequel series to the Netflix series starring Charlie Cox. But they had like several episodes filmed before Hollywood went on strike. And during that period, they were examining everything, and they found that a lot of it wasn't working for them, and so they fired the executive producers who were writing, and I don't even know if they were considered showrunners because of the way that Marvel Studios has like tried to chart its own course in terms of television development. But now Marvel realizes that TV industry has figured it out, and they're okay. We're not reinventing the wheel here. Let's just go and do what they're doing. But it sounds like they now have the showrunner for the Daredevil series. Marvel Studios' Daredevil television series has a new creative team. Dario Scartapane, I have no idea how to pronounce that. Sorry, Italians. I'm Irish. I don't know how to speak your language. Whose recent credits includes Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, as well as Netflix's Marvel show The Punisher, has been tapped to act as the new showrunner for the series, which is in the midst of a creative overhaul. So, The Punisher. I really liked The Punisher. I thought The Punisher was probably one of the darker and more unique of the Netflix Marvel series. Now, certainly all of the Netflix Marvel series were a little darker than what you had going on with the Marvel films at the time, and they always kind of sat in like a quasi-canonical place because like they would reference events from the films, but like in a roundabout way where like they weren't allowed to say character names. Like instead of the Hulk, like they had Luke Cage was set in Harlem, and the Incredible Hulk movie, it has Hulk in a fight with Abomination in Harlem. So, but instead of talking about the Hulk, they say that green guy, or like it's set in New York. All of this stuff is set in New York after the first Avengers film, but instead of talking about Loki's attack, they always call it the incident. And so it was always kind of unclear where it sat in terms of actual canonicity with the MCU. But here it looks like, since they're bringing back Charlie Cox from the show and pretty much everyone else, those shows are being brought in. They're like actually canon now. But The Punisher was probably one of the darker of those shows. They were all more violent than the films, but this one should be interesting. Now, I do have some issues with the way that The Punisher was done, and the fact that this guy has also worked on Jack Ryan. Both of those shows tends to have like a favorable view of like the United States federal and foreign apparatus, because like Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, he's a CIA analyst, and in The Punisher, one of the main characters is a DHS agent, and so there tends to be a little bit more favorable coverage of that, and you know that's kind of something that is a bit of a given in Hollywood. And I don't like it because I don't like the federal government. I don't like those agencies, particularly agencies like the Department of Homeland Security and the CIA. Those tend to be pretty uniquely awful. But they still, he's done work on stuff that tells interesting stories. So the fact that he's on board kind of makes me hope that this show is going to be darker. Because early reports on what the original guys were working on with Born Again was that it was not going to be as dark as the original Netflix series. And I think that's a big mistake. And here we go. Additionally, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, the co-directing team behind indie genre thrillers who are coming off of directing episodes of Loki Season 2, have been hired to helm the remaining episodes that will constitute the first season on Disney+. So they have talked about they want to use some of the footage and some of the episodes potentially that they filmed, but they're going to rework it, and I think that's a mistake. I think if they're like going with a completely new direction, I think they should start from square one. I know that they're going to keep some of it just probably as like a cost saving measure, but I think that's a big mistake. I think if it wasn't working and they're going back to the drawing board, anything that they do to try and rework what they've already shot is going to be very noticeable. It's going to be very obvious that they took something that was written for something else and they tried to repurpose it. And they should just start over if they're going to start over. A lot of this is just recapping what I already talked about, but let's see. What do we got? Okay, yeah, so Benson and Moorhead will direct the new episodes to bring this first season to a close. It is unclear how many episodes it will encompass. Corman and Ord will become his executive producers, and Corman and Ord, they were the writers on the show before it had the big shakeup. The hiring of a showrunner is part of Marvel's larger overhaul of how it makes its television series. The company previously made its shows much like it made its movies, but as THR previously reported, Marvel has reconfigured its model, embracing traditional TV concepts such as showrunners and pilots and series bibles. Let's see what, okay, so Benson and Moorhead had a breakthrough with cult and festival circuit hits The Endless, Spring, and Synchronic. I have not heard of any of those, so maybe I should take a look at that. They sometimes do all the heavy lifting on their movies, from writing to acting to directing and producing to shooting, editing, and visual effects. The duo directed 2 episodes of Marvel's Moon Knight, which starred Oscar Isaac, and 2 episodes of Season 2 of Loki, which is currently unfolding on Disney+. Okay, Moon Knight had some interesting aspects to it, but I think it still suffered immensely from the Marvel problem, and like especially in the ending, where like the last episode had like a couple of CGI Egyptian gods fighting each other for a little bit, and then when it came to the actual like fist fighting that like we were kind of promised with Moon Knight, because you know Moon Knight's kind of like the gritty hand-to-hand combat fighter. They just had him like blink out because Moon Knight has multiple personalities. He has a dissociative identity disorder, and so the character that we were focusing on, he just blinked out for a minute as another identity took over, as another alter took over, and so he just comes back too and sees that he's already beat everyone up. It was such a cop-out to do that so that we didn't actually get the action. But I don't know how much of that was these guys, and how much of it was, the studio execs going, oh, it's too expensive to do another fight scene, let's just do that. But Scarta Payne, a journalist turned screenwriter who got his breakthrough when he co-wrote the Mario Van Peebles Western Posse, has considerable TV experience in the thriller genre. He created and executive produced the NBC medical drama Trauma and served as consulting producer on the Peabody award-winning FX crime drama The Bridge, which starred Damien Biker, I have no idea how to pronounce that, and Diane Kruger. Returning to NBC, Scarta Payne has served as showrunner on the Katherine Heigl-Alfred Woodard political drama State of Affairs before moving into streaming television, serving as writer and executive producer on Punisher. Most recently, he was a writer and consulting producer on Amazon's Jack Ryan series starring John Krasinski. So, hey Gal, welcome in. But anyway, we'll see how this goes. I really don't have high hopes for Marvel these days. I really think their glory days are well and truly behind them. And honestly, I really more and more think that they should have wrapped things up with Endgame. I'm still sticking it out. I'm still watching it all because I'm kind of a sucker and a completionist in that regard. Maybe one day something will just be so bad that it breaks. It's the last straw on the camel's back. But, yeah. We'll see how bad this show goes. I don't have high hopes for it. Alright. So, I still have about 25 minutes before DemonMama and I are ready to go. So why don't I go ahead and review some of my other stuff. So, but before I do that, how are you all doing? Hello, Galilei. Welcome in. It's like Zombie Simpsons. Yeah. Oh my God. I've actually heard some people say that like the newest season of The Simpsons is good, but like, I feel like if I were to go back to watching The Simpsons, I mean, I know that The Simpsons has always been, like, allergic to continuity, so I could, in theory, just pick it back up, but I don't know. I feel like if I ever wanted to go and watch The Simpsons, I should just pick back up from, like, season 8 or 9, whenever I last actually watched it when it was live. Anyway. Dix, the musical. If you haven't heard of it, I'm not super surprised, but it is a very gay musical that, when I saw the trailer for it, I kind of didn't want to see it. It looked pretty bad, but then I saw it, and this is still bad, but like in a deliberate way. This is a very gay camp movie. And I found myself enjoying it a lot more than I was expecting to. The premise is kind of like a gay adult parent trap situation. Two long-lost twins who were separated at birth when their parents split meet each other as adults and try and get their parents back together. Except their parents are all kind of weird characters, and they're weird characters, and everybody's gay, and lots of camp. Megan Thee Stallion is in it, and when I saw the trailers and saw that Megan Thee Stallion was in it, I was like, oh, I don't know about that one. But she's probably one of the best characters in the film. She's not like a huge character. She has a really, really good song. Everything is over the top. She literally, like, in her song, she's talking about how, like, it's like a whole big girl boss song thing. I think the song's called Out Alpha the Alpha, where she talks about how equity would prevail when they kill all the males. You know, it's that kind of a thing. But this is camp. I've never seen a John Peters film, but, like, from what I've heard of some of them, I feel like this would kind of fit in. Like, Nathan Lane in this film spits out deli meats into the mouths of some sewer goblins. And Megan Mullally has a CGI flying detached vagina. It is an incredibly silly film. And the end song, called All Love Is Love, has not left my head since I saw it. And I'm just going to show a little bit of it. Hopefully, you know, this is like a 10-second clip, so it should not clap me. But slurs ahead. You have been warned.
All love is love. Sing along. All love is love. Can't hear you. God is the factor, and all love is love.
That I have been singing that nonstop ever since I saw the film. And their use of the F slur is entirely reclamatory, and they like literally encourage everyone in the audience to sing along. And I think I would have if I had been the only one in the theater, but there were other people in there. I'm like, I don't know how that's going to I don't know how well that's going to go over with everyone else. I certainly have no problems with saying the word, although I try to avoid it on stream, just, you know, monetization issues and everything like that. But so you get one for this video. But it's a lot of fun. The two stars, they've never been in a film before. And I think this was built based on like a two-man show that they had done called Identical Fucking Twins, the musical. And apparently this has been like, they've been trying to get this film made since like 2016, and here it is. It finally is out. Also, actually, hang on, I gotta go back to this because here, I'm gonna mute it. But you'll notice back here is in the cowboy hat, that is Nick Offerman. Actually, here, let me get it bigger. Yeah, that's Nick Offerman. And when they have when they say the slur, you can see that he does not. If you watch the clip, he does not actually say it. He like stops. He's just like, you know what? I'm a little too straight to say that one, so I'm not going to. But apparently, there had been like there had been talk behind the scenes about this scene where like they're like, you know, the director's gonna get death threats for this, and Megan Mullally's like, are you kidding me? We're all getting death threats for this. But Nathan Lane, he actually had something to say about this, because Nathan Lane came to prominence in The Birdcage, which was a film in which he and Robin Williams played, I think they were a gay married couple or something like that. I haven't seen it. I've just heard about it. But in that film, Nathan Lane's character says the F slur. And it was a thing where he wasn't actually comfortable saying it, and the director was like, okay, we'll just do it for one, and then we'll try some other ways, some other things that you could say too. And of course, they use the one take where he says it. And because, you know, as Nathan Lane, as an older gay man, he's heard that word a lot in not good contexts. But he was talking about this film, and he's like, look, this is not said from a place of hate. This is said from a place of reclamation and of rejoicement, because rejoicing in queer pride. Like, you know, the film ends with, you know, a gay wedding, and like a bunch of people show up to like protest it, but God, who is officiating the wedding, is just like, no, come on. All love is gross, and all love is love. In fact, like Nick Offerman's character wearing the cowboy hat, he literally is there. Like he has a line where he's just like, sex should only be between me and my wife with the lights off in the missionary position, so we can't see anything going on. And the implication is that even straight sex is disgusting to him. So again, it's a very silly film It's a very campy film. Very catchy songs. Don't go if you're easily offended, but I think this has the makings of a cult hit. So, I would recommend it, especially if you are gay. And let's see. Lucky Otter says, "What does that look like when God shows up?" Well, actually, that was God in the clip. He's the guy with the big crown and all the spangling things that he was the. Actually, why don't I just closed that tweet? Let me pull it back up. Yeah, this is God in the film. So, very, very spangly, very sparkly, very gay. And the film is also pretty just, generally religiously irreverent. Like God says, he's like, "Oh, this story's so good, I'm putting it in the Bible." And it's like, it's the New Testament coming out this Christmas. But yeah, it's yes, gay God. It's a very, very silly film. I liked it. Go see it. What do we have to review next? Yes. Okay. All right, so we are in Season 4, Episode 9 of Lower Decks. This episode is called The Inner Fight, which is, if you've seen Star Trek, if you've seen The Next Generation, probably one of the most famous, well-known episodes of The Next Generation is called The Inner Light, which this episode has absolutely nothing to do with. They're just picking the title as a pun, but it is still a very important episode. Both in terms of moving the plot forward, because we get some big updates on that little ship that has been kidnapping people all through the season, but also this is a very big Mariner episode, because Mariner has been doing more things to she's been taking more risks. She's been doing things, basically, it seems like she's got a death wish. So Captain Freeman actually sends all of the characters off to like the safest away mission she can think of to keep Mariner distracted, so she doesn't try and do risky things to get herself killed. And we actually find out through the episode that Mariner has been acting out this way because of the promotion, and the reason that she has been stuck as an ensign for this long, even though now she's lieutenant junior grade, has been actually because of a character from 2 episodes of The Next Generation, Ceto Jaxa. Ceto Jaxa was a Bajoran Starfleet cadet who ended up joining the Enterprise, only to be sent on an espionage mission by Picard, in which she was killed by Cardassians. And as we find out, Mariner and Ceto were in the same class together at the Academy. And Mariner looked up to her. And and Mariner saw Starfleet as you go out and you explore and you help people and you learn cool things. But here was Ceto, this person that she wanted to be, who was killed going on a spy mission. And then they had the Dominion War and everything, and Mariner kind of got terrified of joining Starfleet only to become an officer and having to send people to their deaths and having to be a military general. That's not what she signed up for, and so she's been sabotaging her career just so that she can stay an ensign, not have anyone in command under her, and just do the work that she wants to do. And so this whole season, as she's been a lieutenant and her usual antics of acting out in order to get demoted don't work anymore, she's having to come to terms with it. But this episode also addresses, since I brought up Ceto Jaxa, who was in 2 episodes of The Next Generation. The first episode that she was in was called The First Duty, and that was an episode in which Wesley Crusher is part of a flight squadron at the academy. They do like advanced piloting. It's like the Blue Angels, but for Starfleet, and they're Starfleet cadets, so it's like the Blue Angels, more like maybe Top Gun or something like that. But there was another character that was introduced in that episode who was actually the ringleader behind a stunt that they tried to pull off that ended up in the accidental death of one of the members. And the ringleader, who had convinced everyone else to pull it off and convinced everyone else to cover it up afterward, his name was Nick Locarno, and I'm going to pull him up here. You probably, if you've seen Star Trek Voyager, you might recognize that face because that is Robert Duncan McNeil, who also played Tom Paris. And in fact, it has long been speculated that Tom Paris was originally supposed to be Nick Locarno in Star Trek Voyager, but they renamed him because since Nick Locarno was created for another series, if they used him as a regular here, they would have to pay the writer of that episode basically for every appearance of him. And so they retooled his origin slightly, but they still made him a disgraced former Starfleet guy who ends up getting a second chance. And for a long time, my headcanon was that Nick Locarno was Tom Paris still. That because Tom Paris's dad is a Starfleet admiral, he didn't want to go to the Academy under the name Tom Paris because everyone would be like, oh, you're Admiral Paris's boy. He didn't want the favoritism, right? He just wanted to do the work and prove himself on his own merits. That was always my headcanon for him. And I was able to maintain that until this episode, because he's in this episode. Played by Robert Duncan McNeil still, but he's very clearly a different character now than Tom Paris. He is, in fact, his own guy. And he and Marin are actually are teamed up, but that's kind of... we don't know exactly what's going on with him yet. But Star Trek, you ruined my whole headcanon that Nick Locarno and Tom Paris were the same person. If you hadn't done this, I would have been able to just believe that. But anyway, this is a really good episode, and I don't want to get too much more into it than that. But I'm really looking forward to what happens next week, because some of the revelations in this one, I don't know, it's if anybody saw the movie Predators, the one where the Predator movie where they took a bunch of humans and sent them over to another world, this episode has a lot of elements of that, and I'm curious because I'm guessing next episode we're going to find out why, because like I said, all throughout the season, people have been kidnapped. And it's been made to look like their ships were destroyed. And this episode, we see a bunch of them all on a planet together, but we still don't know what's going on with it. So we'll find that out next week for the season finale of Star Trek. And I think that means next week will be the last Star Trek we get this year. Because next year we should be getting season 5 of Discovery, as well as season 2 of Prodigy, but I don't know how much more Star Trek we've got after that, because as I've been covering a lot on this channel, Star Trek is a live action show for the most part, and SAG-AFTRA has been on strike since June, so they haven't been able to be producing anything new. Like they had actually intended to start filming season 3 of Strange New Worlds like right before or right before the strike happened, and so that's been delayed. So we might not get a lot more Star Trek for a while, but hopefully this can give us some good episodes to leave us wanting more. And I've got a couple other things to review as well. I've got 2 episodes of Loki, but we've got, 4 minutes until I was scheduled to go on with DemonMama. I'm actually going to go ahead and DM her, letting her know I'm ready when you are. But until then, I'm just going to go ahead and kill some time here. How are you all doing? Yes, indeed, DemonMama time. Now, she did say that she was having issues because she tried to stream. She's got a dual PC setup that works out pretty well for her for pretty much everything, except that if she is doing a video conversation, she needs to stream from the other PC. I don't know why she's got it set up that way, but she does. And she tried that today and actually had a problem launching stream. That's actually like when I was getting distracted earlier, because she was in my DMs letting me know that she was having problems with that. So I'm not going to have her on screen, but we will we'll have her voice, and hopefully she can at least see me on screen, because I have my my lovely fishy face, and she can maybe show that to her stream. You're staring at paint. What color paint are you mixing, Sai? Actually, why don't I go... Oh, she's calling. Here we go.
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
I am doing great. 1 second. Let me get your guest text up here.
Yeah, let me do the same for you.
Excellent.
Hang on. Just a minute.
I'm actually gonna hold on a second, everybody. I have to hide I'm gonna put the GIF away for this segment,
Hang
because
on.
this is kind of a... Let me just make sure the audio levels are good. Can you, when you have a chance, will you hit me with a quick, just like test kind of thing?
Yeah, test. How are you doing?
Doing great. Just wanted to I'm gonna turn down your audio just a little bit so that we're a little bit on more equal. Can we get a live performance of the bathroom song? Wait, Gayfesh has already done live performances on our show before.
I've literally done an in-person
yeah, in-person live performance.
you know, you've got the piano in there, and I actually was one time I was at your place, I was actually looking through all of the presets to see if I could get the drum beat so that I could just do like a live performance on your keyboard of doing the bathroom song.
Oh yeah, we gotta do that.
We gotta do that.
We'll get that set up for the future.
I'm actually also going to pull up your chat so that I can see everybody in there. Hello, imps. How are you doing?
I hope they're doing wonderful.
Oh, and also,
all right.
I know that you couldn't do your camera, but I think if the imps would like, I can, in fact, turn on mine.
Oh, that would be awesome. Hold on a second. That would actually be perfect.
Yeah, let's go
Hold on,
ahead
let
and
me
do that.
Okay, let me get you up real quick. I can do this. I know that I can do this. Yeah, here. Wait, how do we do this? Okay, yeah. I gotta go like this, and then I go window capture. Wait, not window capture. Screen capture.
Hello.
I'll make a note of when I actually do the intro so that this all gets cut out.
Yeah. This is all just immediate stuff. By the way, for my chat, how is DemonMama sounding on your end? I'm mostly just eyeballing the audio mixer in OBS. So
I think it's going well, at least as far as I can tell.
okay, my Sai
it
in my
should be.
chat says it sounds good. So she's
Wait,
not
hold on.
too quiet. All right, sounds good. Great.
What do I have here? 1 second. Video capture. Oh, okay. I see what I need to do. So I need to add the video capture device. There we go. One moment. No, not USB. There we go. That's the one. Perfect. And now I can shrink it here, and then they will be able to see your cute fish.
All right. Hang on just a second. Boy, hang on. I think one of my monitors is dying.
Oh no.
I'm getting some weird, it's like fading out, and then here, give me a second. I need to unplug and replug it. Let's see if that fixes something on my end. And of course, I unplug it and I can't get it plugged back in. I really hope the monitor's not. Oh, yeah, it looks like it's the monitor. It's not the
The tech curse tonight has been real. My tech stack just completely failed on me when I tried to start stream, and I have no idea why, because I started working on it literally almost an hour before we even started, and I had everything set up. I had gone through and audited all of my settings, so I must have missed something somewhere.
Why can I not find the plug to get this back in? Holy crap.
This is the cursed Halloween special stream, it seems.
Oh, yeah. Hang on just a second. I'm going to stand up so that I can get this plugged back in correctly.
All right, and then I'll do then once you're ready, we'll I'll do a sort of read in, and then we can start talking about the movie.
Okay, I've got my headphones back in.
All right.
Now I need to readjust my windows. Yeah, this is unfortunate that my monitor is deciding to die on me like this.
I'm so sorry.
I think it might actually just be dying. We'll see how I can adjust that. But anyway, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. Let me do a real quick read-in so that we have a nice clean opener for this segment, and then we'll get to talking about the movie.
Sounds great.
My lovely, lovely imps, please welcome the one and only Gayfesh, who you can see right down below with this adorable little avatar. Please welcome Gayfesh to the show. We are going to be doing a duo review of the new Martin Scorsese film, Killers of the Flower Moon, which we saw earlier this week together, and I certainly have been thinking about it all week. If you are not subscribed over on Gayfesh's channel, the name is exactly as you would assume, Gayfesh, E instead of I on the fish, but Gayfesh. And you should go subscribe because Gayfesh does an unbelievably awesome amount of reviews on all kinds of media. And if you're into movies, if you're into Star Trek, you're going to find all that kind of stuff over on Gayfesh's channel, and you should go subscribe.
I literally just reviewed the latest episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, as well as Dix the Musical. I was literally just talking about that today. I also cover a lot of like strike news and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I also play Mario Wonder a lot recently. It's a fun game.
Based. All very good stuff. So please make sure you hop on over and subscribe to Gay Fish's channel. Anyway, welcome. And let's talk about this movie. It was a heavy one. Yeah.
It was a long one too. We saw it together, and
Mhm.
I at one point I like check what time it was, and then like I lean over to you. I'm like, I know we're 2 hours into this, but we've still got 2 hours to go.
Yeah, I was like, so I kind of lucked out in that I was hoping that I would be able to make it through the whole movie without having to make a run to the bathroom, because there is no intermission, which why not? Just
Okay,
put an intermission in.
So
Why don't they do it?
have you seen the news on that? There was actually some theaters that were throwing in an intermission, and the studios were very upset about that. They're like, you can't edit our stuff unauthorized. So they were going after some theater chains for doing that. And it doesn't look like it was a lot of them, but yeah, the editor was very upset about that. And
yeah, I mean, I understand getting frustrated, but also at the same time, I know that this is going to sound like a little bit of it's a bit of a petty critique. It's not really a true critique of the movie itself, but it is difficult, and you don't want to miss anything, especially in this movie where like it is so dense. There is just like narratively, it's so important to see everything. Especially if you're unfamiliar, which I assume the vast majority of viewers are going to be unfamiliar with the like actual story of what happened. It seems pretty important to catch everything. I feel like I kind of lucked out when we went, but yeah.
It's actually they literally because this is set in the in Oklahoma in the 20s, they actually bring up the Tulsa massacre in the film.
Yes.
And
yeah, multiple points actually.
There's even a point where a house is bombed, and one of the first reactions of other people is, it's Tulsa, it's happening here.
Yep.
And
yeah, which was a bone chilling sort of first reaction for people to have. There's a scene in the film where they're watching, like, they go into a theater and they watch a Fox News presentation on.
It's a different Fox News. The Fox News that we all think of didn't start till like the 90s, but yeah.
But yeah, and it's like a Fox News presentation of Tulsa, of the story of Tulsa, and yeah, especially like later on, it is definitely a pretty bone chilling moment. But yeah, okay, so real quick, for those who aren't familiar with the sort of story that's going on here, Killers of the Flower Moon is Martin Scorsese's sort of fictionalized but historically based retelling of the sort of story of a string of murders that were committed against the Osage people in Oklahoma, the native population in Oklahoma. And the Osage people were in a sort of unique position in that the land that was given to them by the U.S. government after they were relocated twice, if I remember correctly, maybe possibly 3 times.
It was either 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, they were originally in Missouri, and then were moved down to Arkansas, I think, and then to Oklahoma. And it just so happened that the land that they were moved onto actually contained in it an incredible amount of oil. And when that was discovered, the Osage people basically split it, more or less evenly among the tribe. And what that meant is that there was so much oil that more or less overnight, the Osage people became a serious economic force to be reckoned with. And following this, of course, there was a string of murders, and these murders actually happened. And the movie is a sort of historical fiction based on this event. And it was a very, very heavy film, but also extremely fascinating. And yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that people understood what the sort of context of the film and what the basic summary of the events are.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's so much I want to say about this movie. So if you had to say what your sort of favorite thing about the film was, what would you say?
Favorite thing about the movie. Well, my first thought was actually one of my least favorite things about it, which was the length. Hang on.
Yeah,
I'm trying to put your
was
stream
very
on
long.
screen. There we go. Yeah, I've just got your stream up so that I've got, the audio visuals going to be delayed from my end, but so that people can see you at least.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I said already, like theaters were putting in intermissions and they were upset about that, but like this I don't see them being upset that like most people are going to end up seeing this at home on streaming. I mean, it was wasn't it made by is this one Apple Films, or was that Napoleon, the Ridley Scott one? Was that
I
Apple
think
Films?
that was the Napoleon one, was Apple Films.
Okay.
I could be wrong though.
But I'm
I
just
can double
saying,
check real quick.
if you're making a 3.5 hour movie and you don't put an intermission in, you can't really be upset when people want to take a break. People do have bladders, and
Yeah.
theaters sell, popcorn, which makes you thirsty, and then they sell, soda, which makes you pee. So,
Yeah.
like, I understand when you are an artiste and you have a very specific vision that you want people to be in there for. Like, okay, but you also have to take into consideration just the realities of people and their biological needs, and just like you could in theory make like a 25-hour movie and demand no intermissions, but nobody's going to watch that. So at some point you
Yeah.
kind of have to stop being so elitist about it and either make this a mini series or put an intermission in. Something to take a break,
And it is one of those movies where I think there is a lot of artistry on display in basically every aspect of the production. So it's one where you don't like I don't want to leave like in the middle of a movie ever, like usually, but especially in a movie where I feel like I'm really glued to it and really pulled into the story.
Well, and you did have to leave once. You had to you
Yeah, I
missed a
did. Yeah, I
murder.
did. Yeah, I missed one of the main. Yeah, exactly. I missed one of the main murders. Now, thankfully, I was sort of able to by context. I think I literally walked out. The moment that I walked out was like the scene right before it, where, which was a very
Where they're
awkward
plotting
time to
the
walk
murder?
out. Yeah, they're plotting the murder, and then there's like a very brief moment where Leonardo DiCaprio's character like crosses the street during a KKK parade, and like the guy in the KKK parade just like lifts up his mask, and is like, "Hey there, Eustace," I think his name is, right? Eustace.
Was he? I don't remember. It was
Eustace?
Everett or something I don't remember what it was exactly. Let me. It started with an E.
I kept thinking it was Eustace. Ernest.
It's one of those old timey
names.
names that start with an E that you don't hear much anymore.
Yeah, it's like the guy just like flips up his mask, like, "Hey there, Ernest. I hope you have a good day." And it's like literally like it's crazy. So there's so much that I want to say about this movie. And yeah, it's one of those movies where, like I said, I did not want to get up. I did have to. And it does kind of come to a detriment of at least the presentation of it. But stuff that I really thought was incredible in the movie. First of all, the thing that I wanted to shout out the most was the costume work. Was next level. It was genuinely incredible. Basically, every aspect of the costuming department was just knocking it out of the park. There's a scene in particular. There's a wedding scene. Probably like, I don't know, maybe a fifth of the way into the movie. And
she had epaulettes. It's awesome.
Yeah, and so I went and looked into this afterwards, and it turns out that the Osage like tribal center was hugely involved in the creation of this film, and that all of the native outfits were handmade and coordinated by the Osage tribal center, which is like
awesome.
super amazing. So they're like historically accurate, handmade, and also made by the people who are this story is about. And And that was it was this wedding scene. Just again, it's not like like you're going. The scene is not supposed to be like the world's most fantastic wedding ever, but the work that's on display is so detailed that it's breathtaking. Even for like the town that they're in is like a pretty rural town, all things considered, and so it's like a rustic wedding, but the outfits are just remarkable, and they I just found myself like stunned by that scene. And it's not the only scene either. There was a number of other scenes throughout where I just found myself marveling at how good the costume design really was and how much care went into it. No cut corners on that front. And of course, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a Martin Scorsese film that wasn't cinematic, as far as like visually very, very well done. And there's none of those sort of scenes that you run into right now. Even in some very high budget productions, you'll run into scenes where it's just like under lit and you can't see what's happening, and that was not a problem at any point in this film. It was incredibly competently done.
I suspect that's probably because it was shot on film. Like I assume it was shot on film. Yeah, a lot of times in cinema when things are underlit, they're filming on digital. And I don't know all of the particulars as to why that is. I'm sure you know better than I do. You went to film school.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is just that like on digital there's a fix it and post mentality that has taken over most digital productions, but people don't realize that like lighting is incredibly difficult to fix in post, because you can't fix what hasn't been captured by the camera. And so with film there's this tendency to be very careful about it. And I mean, I think another that just speaks to Martin Scorsese and the people that he works with, just the level of experience that was going into the production of this film.
Yeah.
There's like, oh, okay, we have a team of people who know what they're looking for, who know how to deal with lighting, who know how to deal with shooting at night or shooting in dark situations and not have it look fake or underlit, which I think
one of the big problems that we see in cinema just in general, and like it's particularly a Marvel issue, just in terms of lighting, is how, because they've got the fix it and post mentality, where like a lot of times you will just be shooting an actor on a green screen and you don't know what the final product is going to look like, which means everything is just evenly lit because there's no intentionality to the lighting, because you don't know what scene it's going to be. You don't know where that character is going to be. They will sometimes just replace the objects that the character's holding in their hand. And when you've got it like that, when you're like, well, okay, we need to shoot this scene so that it can serve any purpose we need it to in the future. Of course, it's going to look bland and uninteresting because it wasn't shot with intention.
Yeah, and there is no such issue in Killers of the Flower Moon. It's every scene was very clearly shot with intention. That this is a masterfully created film, and it shines as a result of that. And it makes it a nice film to watch, even though the like message and the story that's being communicated is painful, beyond painful.
Yes.
I literally, like, my day was done after watching this movie. I'm not even kidding you. I went home and I felt so bad that like I like laid down and just couldn't stop thinking about the movie. It really upset me. And that was absolutely intentional on Martin Scorsese's part. I don't want to I mean, there's not much to be spoiled because
it's a historical event.
You can read about it, but the fact that basically it was just, the movie focuses specifically on two characters, which is Ernest Burkhart and Molly Burkhart, who is his wife, who is a full-blood Osage native, and like the focusing on them makes it not just a story about murders, but also a story of perpetual deception and gaslighting. And it is nightmarish to witness, to unfold, to the degree that like for the whole movie, there's like a part of you that's hoping that like there's some piece that hasn't been revealed to you yet. But if you're familiar with the historical event, you know that there's not. You know that entire time that even though you're like, oh god, it can't be this fucking cruel, and it is, of
Yeah.
course.
Well, and it's also interesting, like the way, because I have seen Scorsese films before, and he has had like death scenes in his films that he's played up with more style than this. Every
Yes.
single murder in this film is not played up with style. It is just shot very matter-of-factly, very blankly, very like you don't have any like cuts when
There's
the
no
murder
dignity.
happens. It's
There's
just
no.
it's just the person slumps over dead and the camera continues rolling. And
Especially the killing of Molly's sister
yes,
in the woods is so, it's like it's sickening because like obviously it's still a studio film, but it has this energy of like a snuff, like you're watching a snuff film. It's horrible, and unsettling and sickening. And I think it's good. I think it's a good thing that that every aspect of this movie is not like, it's not hyper dramatized like most like you'd think of like a, you think of like a gangster movie or whatever, and
well,
that might be based on
you
historical
have
figures.
spooky mood lighting and like eerie music and like a lot of like close up shots of the different characters as the murder scene is coming
Yeah.
up. That's not how Scorsese plays this at all. Everything
all.
just like murder scenes are shot like every other scene, and
and it definitely contributes to a deep unsettling feeling throughout the entire movie.
One thing that
Yeah.
I will say that I was thinking about, and this was something that I was talking to you about, is the movie, especially at the end, really hammers home the way that society has treated Native American women as disposable, and that's an ongoing issue that like Native American women are murdered at a substantially higher rate than basically the rest of the population, and so often just nobody cares about it. And
And in fact, to note on that, at the beginning of the movie, one of the things that happens is there is a sort of moment of narration. There's a few moments where the film like exits that like raw sort of historical presentation and goes into a more filmic thing, and it's usually to hammer home this type of thing, like that one thing in the beginning where it lists off the names of people, and it's like died, like how they die was never looked into by the police, never investigated,
ruled a suicide, whatever.
Yeah, ruled as suicide. And it's just like this just like relentless, like 10 person deep, never investigated, ruled as suicide, never investigated, horrible. And but yeah, anyway, that plays into exactly what you're talking about here.
Yeah. But one thing that I do also notice is like, because I mentioned as we were leaving the theater that I think this film poses a good opportunity to get this talked about more, because well, I mean,
No, I agree.
What is it? The hashtag Say Her Name was like, wasn't that originally for like missing Native women? Like
I don't
kidnapped
know
or
if it was the
murdered?
hashtag, but the term,
Yeah.
the catchphrase was at least very early on used for missing and murdered Indigenous women. If you look it up online, you can actually you can find some of the earliest posts using that as a catchphrase are referencing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it very much the film seems very aware of that and front loads that, so that those these stories stick in your head from the very beginning to the very end.
And even with all of that, and with how in the film, like, it takes literally begging the president to investigate the murders for them to actually be taken seriously. With all of that,
arguably it takes more than that, because they go and they send somebody to beg the president, and then that guy gets murdered in DC, and then they have to send like half, including a extremely sick Molly Burkhart, to then go ask the president again, and even then they're like, the president has like 5 seconds to talk to them.
Yeah.
It's just it's wild. And like there's
But even with all of
basically-
that,
yeah.
the reason that this story is being told, the reason that we know about it, is because the Osage are wealthy.
Yes.
And
Yep.
how many stories are never going to be told? How many stories are nobody even like how many Native women have been murdered and disposed of that nobody is ever going to find out about because they weren't wealthy?
Yeah.
And not to discount these people's stories are important, and I think that the fact that this story is being told is very important. But there was something that I was thinking about, how with how much it took to even get, like, the Osage, like they said, per capita, the Osage were the wealthiest people in the world at the time.
At the time.
And also it's really interesting to see how that's portrayed, because even though the Osage are the wealthiest, they've been declared incompetent to manage their own affairs. Anytime they want to withdraw money and spend it, they have to go to a white man and say what they want to spend it on.
Yeah, it's wild how despite their wealth, their rightfully held wealth, they're controlled in it. And it's interesting that like the class angle is probably one of the parts of this movie that I think is underbaked, that could have been analyzed a little further. But also I understand where they were aiming with the film. But yeah, the fact that like it's like the money is the only reason, is partially the only reason they ever even end up getting any attention, but also that money is the way that like they're not even able to have money in the same way as like as like the white people around them. That there have been ways that have been designed and built around them to control their ability to use their own money, to have access to their own money, and additionally to like actually like live like like wealthy people of the time would be able to. It's really strange how that is. And then of course there's the other aspect of like how all of the businesses around that they have to interact with are also like just rip them off all the time. Like there's that really horrible scene in the
When they're
funeral
talking
home.
yes, where like he's pointing out, he's like, come on, like I saw the funeral for this guy, it didn't go over $300 and you're charging them like what, over 2,000. And then after pressuring him, like eventually the funeral guy, like has enough, and then just basically goes on this racist tirade about how the Osage don't work at all, and like we white people, we're trying to work for a living, so of course we're going to take their money.
He literally uses the term, oh, he's like, you're charging, the phrase, he's like, you're charging me Osage prices. That's
Yes.
fucking bullshit.
Yes.
And he's like screaming at him about it. And it's like, oh my God. Like, it's just, there's so many layers of heinous behavior on display in this movie. Oh my God. There's so much. And it's like, and like, you can't even like, there's no like I said, there's no fictionalization on the historical facts that anybody can like say, oh well, this is a fictionalization. No, this is just, it's all of the aspects, all the worst aspects of this film are 100% historical truths.
I mean,
and that just makes it hit even harder.
The fact that he like casually walks past a KKK parade, where the guy lifts his hood and just says, hey Everett, how you doing? Like they're buddies, they know each other, like he's friends with the KKK even though he's married to an indigenous woman.
Yeah, there's another scene too where the sort of main villain of the film, his nickname is King, and that is a whole other sick level of, and this is Robert De Niro's character. His name is Bill King Hart or something along that lines. Hale, Bill King Hale. And or
was it Hill?
I think it's Hale.
It's Hale or Hill. It's one of those.
Yeah, and there's another scene where so first of all, his character, like he's the most evil guy in the entire movie, and also he's like he fetishizes the very people that he's actively plotting the murder of and the exploitation of. It's incredibly weird. Like he speaks their tongue and understands like their religion. He's extremely like he tries to make himself extremely involved, even to the end where he believes that like, oh, they're not gonna convict me because they won't believe the lies that are being told about me. They love me too much. It's so incredibly weird. And then on top of that, there's like another scene where like at the whole time he's always two-faced through the whole film, like to an incredible degree. He's like literally will gaslight people straight to their face. Like he'll tell them they will have the truth in front of them, and he will just be like, that's not true. But there's another part in the film that ties to what you were saying about the KKK, where he's like, he's basically using the KKK's presence to like, he's like, well, you know, I don't like the KKK either, and we would hate to have them come into power. So, you know, you got to stick with me.
Yeah.
And you got to like make your workers take out, you know, you got to agree with me and agree. I think they're talking about like his workers taking out life insurance policies where he is named as the recipient.
Oh, that was
that was
something he keeps doing in the movie.
Yeah, he does multiple times throughout the film, is make his workers take out a life insurance policy where he's the recipient of the money. And yeah, he's like, oh, you know, well, it'd be a shame if the KKK came into power because I don't like them. I think they're like ugly, brutish racists, unlike the ugly, brutish racist who's right in front of you. Like monstrous, just monstrous. And again, all of those aspects are true historical recorded events that you can go read about this on Wikipedia right now, and you will find the real world version of it. On that front, it deviates very little from the actual events and the actions that were taken. And of course, a lot of these were recorded partially because of the way that they were done, like that, like this guy taking out insurance policies on his own workers who are natives, and then he just finds a way for them to accidentally die or just die from a murder. Like, you know what I mean? Of course, he kills them.
Well, there's even a point where he's like,
never takes.
There's even a point where he's like, I know you want to get rid of this guy sooner, but we have to wait at least a year, otherwise I'm not going to get the insurance money for it.
He's like, this guy owes me $25,000, and I know it would be convenient for us to kill him to get his inheritance, so the inheritance goes to your side of the family, but we have to wait because otherwise the insurance company will start asking. It's fucking disgusting, so fucking sickening.
Now, I also have to like point out this is a Scorsese film, and Scorsese loves telling movies about, you know, organized crime, and that's certainly what this film is about. But like,
he cannot help himself.
When he was writing the film originally, he had to actually stop and like start over from page one because he realized he was just telling a story about the white men. And he wasn't centering the Osage enough in it. And even in the finished product, as we were watching this, it's still a story about the white men, and the Osage are kind of secondary to it. Now, they're certainly portrayed very sympathetically, and a lot of care is given to make sure they have voice in the film, but they are not the main characters of the film. The criminal, the organized crime, the plots to murder them all, those guys are the main characters.
Yeah, and I do think that that's a completely a very, very worthy criticism of the film, is that like when the film goes into like behind the scenes things, the behind the scenes are always the plotting of the murders. They are always the main characters, Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, conflicting for whatever reason. So that it does suffer from that perspective issue. And it's unfortunate too, because some of the most interesting parts of the movie, in my opinion, are when we do get to see the perspective of the Osage people, which is, it's like those, by the nature of the way that the narrative progresses, like we don't get to see them anymore because of the way that the film is framed. So like an example is like when the Osage people call like all of the family heads together to have that discussion about like how they're going to take action, like what are we going to do about this? And there's that meeting where they're talking about where they're raising money and they're deciding whether they're going to send somebody to DC.
That's one of the best scenes in the movie.
One of the best scenes in the film is this incredibly intense scene where there's like people like openly weeping because somebody just got brutally murdered, and like literally earlier that day before the meeting happened, there was like these psychopath doctors who are on the payroll of Robert De Niro's character decided they're like, oh, we can't move the body, we have to do like an open air autopsy on site. And so there's just a bunch of people who have to watch their family member get cut up in like the woods by a bunch of,
because they were trying to like find the bullet so that they could hide the evidence of the murder.
Yeah, and yes, literally they use the autopsy as a way to hide evidence. And so there's like this scene after that where you have like a bunch, like all of these family heads having to come together to make a decision. It's an incredibly intense, emotional scene. And unfortunately, like I said, and there's another one later in the movie that we do get, which is when the FBI inspector or the FBI investigator characters come back in. There's that scene where the Osage people meet with the FBI. Another really great scene. Unfortunately, very short. And so those two scenes like are some of the most interesting and like tense in the film. We don't get to see as many because again, it's so fixated on telling the stories, while not like favorably telling the stories, but still telling the stories of Ernest Burkhart and Bill Hale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
there was like a specific line. I don't remember verbatim what it was, but like one of the elders.
Sorry, not to interrupt you.
Sure.
I just got a big raid. I'm just going to welcome them in. Real quick. Sorry to interrupt.
Vosh raid.
Welcome to all of the Voshites. Please come in and get comfortable. I am currently speaking with wonderful friend of the stream, Gayfesh.
Hello.
We are talking about Martin Scorsese's new film, Killers of the Flower Moon, which I think we both would recommend strongly. I don't want to speak for you, but I certainly recommend it strongly. I welcome you to all come in and get comfy. Thank you, Vosh, for the raid. We've been talking about it for a little bit. But please get comfortable. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of other stuff afterwards, even if you are not super interested in this film. So please stick around and welcome. Sorry for that interruption.
Yeah. Okay. So
go ahead and continue.
When the Osage elders are talking to the FBI agent, and they're like, you white people, you come onto our land and you say this is the way that we are doing things now, and we have to follow your rules, otherwise we will be in trouble. But like 20 years ago, if there was somebody out there who was just going and killing us, we would just find out who it is and we'd go and kill them. But we can't do it that way now.
It's wild too. And I do think this is to Martin Scorsese's credit, the amount of attention through the film that is brought to that basically the Osage people are repeatedly bound because they are basically threatened by a law that will take action against them, that won't take action against the people perpetrating it. So there's not just, is it like they're not allowed to practice their own way of life as they would have, but also there's a slanted law that they're being subjected to that and that scene really brings that, like, that's like the scene where it kind of comes forward as like a direct commentary, but you see it, them come up against this multiple times throughout the film, where it's like, even in the first council scene where it's like, okay, well, we've been asking the Oklahoma state government for help over and over again, and they will not help us. We can't take action. We don't have access to any form of justice. So our only option is to go to Washington, which of course then that doesn't even work in the first case. It's a really wild, it's a really, I think the movie does a good job of showing that, of sort of highlighting how, first of all, unevenly the law is done in the first place, but how the Osage people had a way that was working for them that kept their people safe, and that's been stripped away and replaced with a law that they have no say in, that also is slanted against them.
Well, and that's how the film opens, is they are doing a ceremonial burial for a peace pipe.
Yes.
And it's all the elders talking about, is like, the children who are listening outside are, this building, they will grow up with not speaking our language and not knowing our ways. They will be, they will be following a new way with white people, and our way is just going.
Yeah. and it's just it's a heart-wrenching opening to the film, and also really sets the tone for the rest of this just continual erosion of a people's way of life, of a people's culture on multiple fronts. There's not just one single front on which this is happening to them. It's every aspect of their life is being attacked, every aspect of their ability to live full and healthy lives. Also, there's another part that I just remembered, that kind of plugs into this. There's this part in the beginning of the movie where Robert De Niro is talking to Ernest, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and he's just like sort of giving him the rundown of like the Osage people, and he like brings up just sort of casually, oh yeah, like Osage women don't live very long. And it's like,
Yeah,
and then you proceed to see that like the reason they don't live very long is because
they're murdering them all.
they're actively murdered, poisoned, mistreated. They're not given access to any sort of medicine. The medicine is like given to them by their own like tribal healers is like downgraded and blocked or outright outlawed. So it's like they have no path. It's like, oh yeah, no wonder they die young.
Well,
Like
and then
you
the
make it that
medication that
way.
they do get, like you know, God, the just Molly's whole story, because she has diabetes, and
Mhm.
they use the very fact that she is on insulin against her in a very heartbreaking way. I don't want to get too much more into it, but
Yeah.
like I'm watching this and I'm like, yeah, I can understand why, marginalized people might have an inherent distrust of Western medicine for after something like this,
Yeah, it's wild, and that was another part of the film that was like the gaslighting that like is so sickening because like it's so wild. Okay, so in that scene, in the first scene where like the conflict over the insulin first happens, like the movie almost like at that point in the film, if you're like the film hasn't quite revealed to you the full extent of Ernest's actions. You're only just starting to figure out how involved he is in everything, which is very involved. And Molly is like, I don't want like, why do I have to take this like white people medicine? It's poison. Like, it's not good for me. It's not helping. And he's just sitting there like, no, you're fucking crazy. And he literally has like a racist tirade. Like he goes like extremely hard on like the medicine that she had been getting previously from like the native healers, all the while that it is actually fucking poison,
Yeah.
and it is actually being poisoned. And it's like, yeah, like again, it's like even the medicine that does work, that is truthfully like is like maybe scientifically proven, can't be like that science can't be trusted to actually be able to filter down through the fucking layers of racism to actually be able to reach people. So like it's completely rational that people would not want to engage with that type of structure whatsoever. And it's like the film does such a good job of portraying that without like which I think is something that like in broad political conversations, I think that a lot of people miss the mark with like being able to actually discuss this topic of why like certain peoples around the world don't trust, Western medicine or whatever. And they frame it as like, oh, it's like anti-intellectualism. It's like being an anti-vaxxer, but it actually isn't. It comes from
Legitimate
no,
fears.
actually, the last time that we accepted medicine from these people, it was literally tainted. It had been actively poisoned because people wanted our land.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have a very rational reason for distrusting the science, but that is saying like even if the science is true, you're gonna distrust the suppliers or the people who are giving it to you. And when you're engaging, like when an entire people group is subjected to that level of systemic gaslighting, it's just the damages, it echoes for generations. And I'm happy that the film actually tackles that issue so head on, like that it's a core part of the film. There's so much in this movie, and we mentioned at the beginning that it is really long, and I feel like the length is it's rough in the theater, but it is actually really good that it's as long as it is in a lot of ways, because I do feel like there's so much that needed to be talked about, and I'm glad that they gave time for all of those things to be talked about.
Well, and Scorsese who was talking to about how he had actually been influenced by Ari Aster,
Yes.
who directed Hereditary and Midsommar and Beau is Afraid, and how he was influenced by the slower pace of those films that lets things slowly build and gives things time to breathe. And that, like, Ari Aster, I think right now, like, him and Jordan Peele are like the best horror directors out there. And to see, for a long time, horror has been treated as like, it's been treated like, sci-fi and fantasy where it's not really taken seriously. But I think some of the best filmmaking out there right now is coming out of horror. And so to see Scorsese, a veteran, legendary director, give praise to, one of the newer horror auteurs, and take direct inspiration from some of my favorite films of the last decade to influence the way that he's making this film. I can appreciate that. I think there's probably still a way to make this a 2-hour film. I think it would be harmed for it. But I also think like something like this could have been a mini series and would have worked just as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do think that that there could have been. Yeah, I do think the series. I mean, I don't know if Martin Scorsese has ever done like a serialized thing like that, but I do think that could have worked as well. And perhaps that would have even allowed it more room to dwell on certain issues that didn't get as much as much attention. But yeah, even in its current form, I do think like I don't think that don't be daunted by the length. Those of you who are listening.
And I looked. This is an Apple film, so
it is okay.
It should be on Apple TV Plus fairly soon if it's not already. I don't know how they're planning that whole release thing, but movies these days are going on streaming sooner and sooner. Like a lot of the horror movies that I've been reviewing this month, they're already available to stream. Like even though they came out a couple weeks ago because they wanted them all out so that people can stream them on Halloween.
I'm trying to see if there's a date. Oh, it looks like okay. Well, Apple TV, if you search it, it does look like you can watch it on Apple TV right now.
Oh, okay.
So it looks like it's already released. So you don't have to go see it at the theater if you'd prefer to watch it.
If you want to pause and go to the bathroom and not miss a murder scene like DemonMama had to.
Yeah, like I did. I missed one of them. Yeah, and so I was trying to think of if there were other things that I wanted to say about the film. Of course, it's a period piece. And so like I already mentioned that the costuming is really good, but I also think that the set work is phenomenal. Down even to the way that they like handle lighting and the fact that like all of the night shots have like this greasy like oil light energy to them all. Oh yeah, the general just griminess of the film. Especially there's the one scene, there's a scene where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is like questioned for a really long period of time. And I really loved that scene because it's like, first of all, there's like they keep paying attention to the like flies that are like trapped in the room. He keeps
getting flies landing on him and he has to bat them away.
Yeah, and it's like he's getting all sweaty and greasy and disheveled over the course of the hours like that is being depicted there. And like also his character, like I really do think we should talk about the performances. Maybe that's what we can like sort of end on, is talking about the performances. But I really love just how much attention to detail there is in like presenting just a grimy world of really seedy people who put themselves in horrible situations, and especially Leonardo DiCaprio's character. So the performances.
One of the guys, the guy's name was Blackie. He was one of the hitmen that they had hired. I was actually just doing a little bit of research on the movie, and like I found that guy actually has his own Wikipedia page. and they've
Oh,
got his
wow.
photo, and the actor they got from is a dead ringer. They got somebody who looks just like him. I looked at him like, wait, I saw that guy in the movie. That's his face.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Leo does great. I was expecting Leo to do great. And also it's very, very interesting to point out that when Scorsese was first planning this movie with DiCaprio, he wanted DiCaprio to play the FBI agent who was investigating the murders. But DiCaprio said, no, I want to play the husband who's doing them. And
and I think that was such a good choice. Oh my god.
It would have been a
what
completely
better
different
choice.
movie. Like from having the focus be on the plot so that we see everything going on from the inside, rather like that kind of lets it play out a little bit more chronologically. Like I think if DiCaprio was playing the investigator, well then he would show up after most of the murders had already happened. And he'd be piecing things together that way. I think it would have been a very different film, and I think there probably wouldn't have been as much opportunity for the Osage story itself to be told, like for their story.
I agree with that. I think it would have been like, obviously, both of us mentioned that we think it would have been better if there was more room for the Osage perspective, but yeah, it would have been way worse if it was if it had been Leonardo DiCaprio in the FBI agent's role. In the current iteration of the film, the final version of the film, Jesse Plemons, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
Plays the FBI agent, which I thought he did a great job.
Well, I really like Jesse Plemons. If you don't know the name, he was Todd in Breaking Bad, or as the fans liked to call him back in the day, Meth Damon, because he looks like Matt Damon, but he was cooking meth. So I like him in everything I've seen.
Breaking Bad. Yeah, he's good. He's really good. I think I really can't like praise the performances in this enough. Lily Gladstone playing Molly Burkhart, amazing, agonizing performance. I do wish that we got to see more scenes of like the early and late parts of the film where like, because she's really sick for most of the movie.
Yeah.
And while she portrays that incredibly well, there's just also a lot where she's just like
lying around,
very conscious.
Yeah, it's a very passive role for a lot of it. And I think I mentioned to you in the theater that she's going to get the Oscar for this film, but I don't think she was given the material to merit it.
I mean, I think she knocked it out of the park at the beginning and end, and I wish there had been more. But and I'm not gonna be mad if she gets the Oscar for it, because I do think that the parts where she was given a more active role were fantastic. Especially there's a sort of scene that sort of caps off her character story towards the end of the film, and it echoes
that was
back.
good. I know the one you're talking about.
It's basically where she sort of has her moment of closure on recognizing, yes, I have been completely and utterly betrayed by every white person that I've trusted in this entire film, including my fucking husband. And so that's like her moment of like closure. And it is this incredibly powerful, understated performance of that just it burns into your memory. And part of it too, it echoes back to the beginning where there's ironically it's a line by Robert De Niro's character where he says, oh, don't start doing don't just chat to fill up space. You might think that the Osage people are quiet, but they're always listening, they're always watching, and they know everything. And that moment really, like, it's like the prophecy comes back around, like this, you know what I mean? Like where it's like, yeah, she had almost nothing to work with, no assistance, and had to figure this out for herself from her own, like just going through the agony. Like the only information she really gets to be able to piece any of what happens together is from her own observations while she's deliriously ill. And she only comes to, like, even to that moment that I'm talking about of like confronting the gaslighting that she experienced, confronting this deception. She only even gets that because she has such a severe medical episode that while she's like out of the town, that she has to go to like a recovery center that's distanced from her like home context, and they have no motivation to like mistreat her. So she finally receives like
Proper
medical
care.
traumatic but it's traumatic, and so she's able to observe through her own feelings like I was being poisoned.
Yeah.
And like, oh my god, it is so good. And in the beginning, of course, when they're sort of like when they're having their when Leo is like trying to win her, over her heart, her like the way that she presents this character with such insight and dignity, and she's so like almost cold in some ways, because
Yes.
she's just like not having his shit,
Mhm.
and yet she's not cold. He is able to warm up with her, and she has so much feeling, but she has like a strong defensiveness that it's incredible. I think her performance is really good, and I do think that it's a little bit regrettable that so much of the movie is her like sick and in agony and in like literally delirious or unconscious or passed out. And maybe a part of that just enhances the parts where she is, I mean, there is that it does certainly enhance the tragic aspect of like this beautiful person, who has so much life and so much to say, and is just like debilitated because some fucking scumbag wants her money,
There was
Yeah.
one scene in the film that I noticed was not physically possible. That it was very striking to me because for a lot of the film, Scorsese has been very deliberate to show things, just presenting them very matter of factly. But after William Hale has like set his farm on fire for the insurance money,
Oh yeah.
there we
With
go
the FBI watching.
with the FBI watching, because one of them is undercover as his insurance salesman. But anyway, it goes to Everett and Molly's place, and you can see the fire outside the window, except they aren't living near his farm. William Hale's farm is out out in the sticks, whereas Everett and Molly, they're living in a community with a bunch of other houses, like where all of her siblings were living. So like there wouldn't have been the fire right outside the window because there would have been another house outside the window.
Yeah,
but we
that
can
did
see the
confuse me. See,
fire there.
I thought they were supposed to be staying over at his place when
Oh,
it
was it
happened.
that? It could have been that, but the way I read it was more just
I don't know.
like the just the presence of William Hale there was just like, as he is destroying the world around them, even though they're not physically right next to his thing, but even then they can still see it outside the window. I thought that was kind of the implication of that scene. But
you might be right, because it is, now that I'm thinking of it, it is her bedroom from their house. And like there is another part right near there, because she's like at that point she's like in the worst health that she's been so far in the movie, and she keeps having visions of various types, including one where Bill Hale like he like comes into the room and talks to her, and then she's like, "Are you real?" or whatever, and he's like, "I might be." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you might be right. You might be that like that scene is actually supposed to be sort of from her perspective, or even just like that the room is burning because like she's literally in the throes of like a deadly fever, and in Ernest's mind, like he knows all of it. He knows that they're burning down the house right then. So maybe the fires aren't actually supposed to exist at all. It's only supposed to be a sort of visual aspect for us to see, but that's communicating what's inside. I don't know. For some reason, when I saw that scene, I assumed they were over there and that they were leaving, because there were so many people that like, oh, they're not actually like setting the house on fire. They're like burning the land right now. Now we're going to go leave. Like it's, like we're escaping or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think you might be right.
It would definitely need a second watch and further analysis. This was just something that, a note that I had jotted down in the theater.
Yeah, I will be watching this again. I will be watching this one again with Doe and my other partners, because yeah, I want to see it again.
Well, when the
Even though it's
Oscars
rough.
when the Oscars start up, like as part of my channel, I plan to watch every single film that is nominated, and
Wow.
so and that will probably also just involve rewatching some of the other stuff, because depending on like what something gets nominated for, it might be in a category that I hadn't particularly paid attention to in the film. So yeah, that should be a that should be an interesting project. So I will definitely be giving this film a rewatch at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess if there's nothing else there's nothing else right immediately on my mind, I would say I strongly, to all of my viewers, I strongly recommend going to see Killers of the Flower Moon for so many reasons. But also, if you can think of no other reason to go see this movie, you need to see the incredible costume work. I mean, it is. I have not seen a film in recent memory that has put so much love and care into the costume work all the way throughout. I'm talking from beginning to end. And of course, the Osage historical clothing that is on display is in and of itself, fantastic. But the overall film as well just has really great costume work. So I recommend it strongly. And then if you want to say anything, final thoughts on the film, then we can sort of wrap it off here.
Yeah, I would say, just to again reiterate, I think it's an important story, and I just am trying to be cognizant of the factors that go into deciding whose part of the story gets told and why. And I don't think it's a perfect film, but I think it's very important, and
Yeah.
I think it's going to spark a lot of conversation, and I think that probably might be its hopefully its most lasting impact. But we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I hope so too. I really hope it gets people. I mean, it's a very visceral confrontation with a real piece of history that most people don't know, like at all. So I do think that it succeeds in that front, and I hope that it has great success in uh, you know, obviously raising awareness is always a limited political victory, but I think it's an important one nonetheless, and I think this film does a very good job of it. Yeah, so that was our review of Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin Scorsese. And Gayfesh, thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to just do a quick shout out for your channel, get all these wonderful viewers over there, and then we'll call it good?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Gayfesh. You can find me at youtube.com/Gayfesh. You can also find all of my links at gayfesh.com. I don't have a White Forest site yet. That just goes to an all my links page. But you can find me there. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at gayestfesh. You can find me on Blue Sky. I'm at gayfesh.com there. And if you liked what you heard, I do movie reviews every Thursday evening. I watch 2 or 3 movies a week that are currently in theaters, and I give my thoughts on those. I also cover a lot of Hollywood news in general. I do a lot of strike coverage, and I also play video games. I've been Super Mario Wonder just came out, so I've been playing a lot of that. But I also I just beat Celeste last week, and I'm still cis, so
What?
I know, right?
Absurd.
Somebody told me that it doesn't count because I haven't beat the B and C sides yet, so I guess maybe I have to do that
Gotta check and make sure.
to be sure. But yeah, come on over, give me a subscribe. I just broke 900 subscribers, so I only need 100 more to get 1,000, which is one of the 3 criteria I need to get channel monetization. The other 2, one of which is easy to do, it's just have 3 uploads in the last 90 days. And I'm doing daily uploads on my channel, so if you want to see new reviews, they're posted every day, or new strike news, Hollywood news, all of that. And also watch time. I need like 1,500 more watch hours. So if you want to watch my stuff, so close to get that channel monetization and make that, underpaid Google AdSense money.
Yeah, I would. All right, everybody. I think we can get Gayfesh a bunch of new subscribers, and then you can all have a bunch of awesome stuff to watch that will get those watch time numbers up. Gayfesh, thank you so much for coming on. This was a wonderful, wonderful conversation, and I look forward to hopefully doing another movie review sometime in the future.
That
I
would be
would love to do
fun.
this. This has been great.
Yep. Have a good
All
night.
right. Bye. Have a good day.
Bye. Okay. Well, that was a fun one. Right. There is here, I'm closing her window there. So while that was happening, one of my monitors died. Like if I turn it off and back on, I'm able to briefly get image from it, but like I'm getting a lot of lines, and then it like maybe it's like I turn it on and it's clear right now, but then it gets a bunch of lines on it, and then like it dims and then goes back on, and that's going to be really distracting. Unfortunately, it's kind of like it's the monitor that I've been mostly using to like, you know, keep track of my stream analytics and everything like that, and my stream chat as well. So I still need to do my Loki review, but I think after that, instead of continuing gaming, I think I'm going to call it for the night so that I can deal with this monitor issue. Sai says you'll need more money now. Well, I'm pretty sure there is a spare monitor somewhere in the house, but I don't want to like fiddle with that while I'm on stream. So I would just need to deal with that, you know, off stream. There's solutions to my problem. I'm not super worried about it. It's really distracting while I am streaming right now. And so I don't think I'm going to continue. I don't think I'm going to do gaming after this. I think I'm just going to do my Loki reviews and then call it for the night. So with that being said, give me just like a second because I need to get my stuff set up properly so that I can monitor everything. Okay, and then let's turn off that screen. Okay. Give me a second. Let me get my I turned off the monitor. I maximized the notes that I had for my Loki review, and it maximized to the monitor that's turned off. Okay, scuffed ass stream. Give me a second. Daredevil just puts money away. Well, you don't need to put all your money away if you want to give me some. But yeah, if you liked that conversation with DemonMama, actually, well, it seems like I've mostly just got my regulars here. How'd you guys like that convo? You want to see more stuff like that? I should reach out to creators more and just do conversations. I liked that one. I liked my conversation with Riverboat Jack the other week. I should do more of those. I also need to do like, there was that debate that I had with the Snyder Bro, and I kind of want to talk to that person again because he says that Sai, thank you so much for the $25. That was incredibly generous of you. But yeah, he said that like Rise of Skywalker was his like favorite Star Wars movie, so I kind of want to debate him on that. But yeah, anyway, let me see. Now that oh wow, I just jumped like 10 subscribers thanks to DemonMama's shout out. That's pretty good. All right. With all of that, I think we can do the Loki review. So I missed last week's Loki review. I just I forgot to do it on my previous stream, and now that I'm streaming today on Friday instead of Thursday because of my conversation with DemonMama, I'm able to cover 2 Loki episodes in a week. So we've got episodes 3 and 4, so we're kind of in the middle of this season, and I did a segment this stream about how I'm kind of having Marvel burnout, and I'm kind of feeling it here too. There's some interesting things going on this season, but I still am so wary about the direction that they're going. Knowing what I know about how Marvel has been producing their TV shows where they haven't had proper showrunners. Every single time I watch one of these shows, I'm like going, well, I don't know how I'm feeling it, but maybe there's something. And at this point, I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about it, and there's probably nothing. And the last 2 episodes are the ones where we get Jonathan Majors as Victor Timely, one of the Kang variants. And I've, had my I have talked a couple times about my issues with Jonathan Majors remaining as Kang after the allegations came out. And I think these episodes have kind of made me feel even better about not wanting him to stay on, because I actually don't like his performance here. I thought he did a great job in the season 1 finale as He Who Remains, but here he plays another Kang variant called Victor Timely. And he's like this 19th century con man, professor inventor kind of a guy who talks like this, very eccentrically, and has pauses in weird places. And it's so over the top cartoonish that it like takes me out of it. I'm not seeing, when I'm looking at that, I'm like, I am not seeing a person. I am seeing somebody doing a caricature. I'm seeing someone do a performance. It just makes me hyper aware of the fact that he's an actor who is trying to do an acting. And so if that's what we're going to be getting from Kang doing, like, even just ignoring the legal issues, just as a performer, if this is how Jonathan Majors is going to take his approach to different Kang variants, I don't see how it's going to work out well for Marvel. Ignoring all the legal stuff, just from a pure entertainment side of things, I thought he was really obnoxious. I don't feel like the show has an ultimate like end goal in mind. At the end of episode 2, a bunch of rogue TVA agents went and pruned a bunch of timelines. And then at the start of episode 3, they're like, oh, the branches that were pruned are growing back. And I'm just like, oh, okay, so that whole thing about how they killed billions of people, it's not actually true, because those branches are growing back, so those people are still there. Like they went and immediately undermined it there, but then people are still treating it seriously. And also there's the whole thing where Sylvie killed He Who Remains last season, which caused all of the branching timelines, which was like the point, because they wanted to stop the sacred timeline from like pruning all of the branches and killing all of the variants and everything like that. But one of the main focuses this season has been, okay, now that we've got all of these branches, we're trying to weave them together into the sacred timeline using this, like, they call it the loom, and it's this big thing that's like, you can see all of the different strands of the timeline still being woven into one. So the show seems very inconsistent. Like, it doesn't know what story it wants to tell, whether there should be a sacred timeline, or what should happen with these branching timelines. Like, is the Loom actually forcing them all into a single timeline? They're not clear on it at all. And I think, like, special effects wise, the show looks great. The third episode took place basically almost entirely during the Chicago World's Fair in 1892 or something like that. And the production design for that episode was great, because like they were building real sets. And there's like honestly, probably one of my favorite moments is like, because it's the World's Fair, so they've got, you know, booths set up from around the world, and Loki sees like a booth set up for like Norway, where they've got like statues of like Norse mythology, and so like he sees statues of Odin and Thor and Balder, and he's like, Balder, nobody even knows who Balder is. And then Mobius is like, oh, you're just mad because they don't have you up there. But that was kind of a cute moment. But I don't know. I'm really getting burned out on the MCU, and I don't know where they're going with it. They ended episode 4 on a big cliffhanger. And they ended it in a cliffhanger where I was expecting there to be like a post-credit scene to carry it on. Because like in season 1 of Loki, at the end of the 4th episode, Loki gets pruned. And at that point, we don't know that pruning doesn't kill you. And so from that, when they did that, it looks like, oh, wait, did they actually kill Loki and now Sylvie's going to be the main character? But then they had a post-credit scene so that you knew, oh no, Loki's actually still alive. And so I was expecting to see that, because they kind of have like a similar catastrophic cliffhanger that they ended on this week. But they don't. So I actually kind of like that better. Just leaving things far more in the air. It lets people speculate more. There's, you know, the whole water cooler effect, you know, where people go into the office Monday after they watched an episode and discuss what happens. And you know, there's value to the water cooler effect when there's a plan. But I don't really believe that Marvel has plans for their shows. So any speculation is kind of like, what's the point? They don't know where they're going with it when they wrote that episode. They'll figure that out next week. So anyway, yeah, that's my general thoughts on the last couple episodes of Loki. Production design is fine. It feels like it's been less over-reliant on obvious CG the way that some other Marvel productions have been. Other than like seeing like the outside of the TVA with, you know, you've got your shots of the Loom with all of the time streams and stuff like that. But like they've built like actual sets for characters to interact in. I really like that. So many things these days are using the volume, and they're using the volume not to enhance a set, but to get away from having to build a set, which leads to a lot of big, empty, open spaces that doesn't end up looking good because they've been using it as a crutch instead of as a tool to enhance. So this show is not. This show has done better in that regard. I think this show looks a lot better than a lot of Marvel properties. This show actually has like a genuine like color palette to it. Instead of just like muted, even lighting, washed out colors like a lot of Marvel shows have. But story-wise, it kind of feels like all of the other Marvel shows at this point. So there's my thoughts. We'll see what happens next week. Okay. And that is all of the segments that I had planned for today. And since my monitor died and I need to go deal with that, I think I'm just going to go ahead and end stream early today, so I can deal with that. But I might be doing more streams. I've been thinking about switching to 3 a week. And I also have been talking with some other streamer friends of mine that they kind of want to do like some group gaming stuff. So I might do like a Sunday group gaming stream kind of a thing where we play like Mario Party, or Mario Wonder has a multiplayer option, so I might be doing something like that. But yeah, let me know what you would like to see, what you're looking forward to. And thank you all so much for hanging out. We had a lot of people streaming today, so I haven't been seeing the big numbers today, but I've got my core audience. You guys have been good about sticking around, and I will see you next time, whether that's Sunday or Monday. I haven't decided yet, but bye-bye.